Letter 10, The Dera, March 6, 1933. Dear fellow students, I have been asked by some of you for my opinion on the much discussed subject of Swaraj, Home Rule, or the problem of the British rule in India. The question of the British Raj in India, which is now agitating the public mind, especially on account of the part played by Mahatma Gandhi, is not a question to be settled by a foreigner. That would be equivalent to the old maid teaching parents how to raise children. It is a profound and complicated problem. It is a question concerning which this writer is not well informed, and in which he is but little interested. Consequently, he will not attempt to discuss it, but he might venture two statements, which may help the student in his study of the problem. The problem of Swaraj. First, the British rule in India has in many ways been a very great blessing to the country, and we believe it has been better for India, notwithstanding its faults, than any other existing government would have been. It has been set over India by the supreme will. Let us keep that in mind, because all kings and governments exist only by his will. This writer, only a few days ago, asked a highly educated native gentleman the following question: Don't your people like the British government? They certainly have done much for India. And his reply was very significant. He said, We like the British government all right, but we certainly do not like the machinery by which that government is administered. Here is a distinction not well understood by the world at large, and therein may lie the key to the final solution of the problem. Second, out of the turmoil and stress of the present situation, will arise a government best suited to enable India to regain something of her ancient prestige, and then to go forward to achieve that sublime destiny now lying latent and germinal in the souls of her great spiritual leaders. Whether that government will be the one envisioned by Mahatma Gandhi and the Indian Congress, or a modified British Raj, is immaterial. Only one thing is certain: it will be the government best suited to serve the high destiny of this ancient and noble people. We may safely trust that to the supreme will, for his wisdom, inspired by an infinite love, never makes mistakes. Since the above was first written and later published in an Indian magazine, the writer has received a letter from an Indian patriot telling him that he would have done well to leave the subject alone, because India will be satisfied with nothing but independence. Let that be as it may. If the writer of that letter, and others who think the same way, had perfect faith in the supreme will, knowing that whatever he gives India will be the best thing for India, there would be but little grounds for further discussion. The great Indian epic Ramayana. In these letters I find myself far behind in making note of things I would like to tell you about. One of them is the festival of Diwali, which literally means the festival of lights. It occurred last year on October 29th. It recalls the great Indian epic Ramayana and celebrates the victorious return of Ram Chandra after conquering and destroying his enemy Ravan in Ceylon. The Epic of Ramayana is one of the greatest ever written. It is generally conceded to be far superior to either the Iliad of Homer or the Divine Comedy of Dante. It is unique in one respect, and for that reason I am referring to it in these letters. It portrays the inner struggles of the soul and its final victory over mind and matter. This it does in well-adapted allegory. Its spiritual meaning was fully set forth in writing by a saint named Tulsidas about 400 years ago. But the original story was written in the Sanskrit language so long ago that one cannot now venture to assign a date to it, ages ago. One estimate is that it was written in Treta Yuga, which would place it near 2 million years ago. If this seems apocryphal to some of you, then have your own way. The author of the original story was Valmiki, a great sage or saint. The epic is unique in one other respect. It was written at least 10,000 years before its chief characters were born, but who finally did appear and enacted their several parts in actual history. For although this great epic is an exact portrayal of what takes place in each individual soul who struggles to the light inside, yet the entire story was fully staged in history. The Master explains that the historical staging of the great epic was an effort of the negative power to divert attention from its spiritual significance, and so make it appear to all subsequent ages that the story is nothing more than a clever poetical account of ordinary human exploits. The story of Ramchandra. Ramchandra is the hero of the story, and his wife's name was Sita. Ramchandra was the eldest son of King Dasrath and was heir to the throne of Kosala in northern India. The major part of the story is woven around the abduction of Sita by Ravan, the evil-minded king of Lanka, and the subsequent and consequent war between Ravan and Ramchandra. Ramchandra raised an army, many of them being monkeys, and invaded Lanka, attacking the vicious abductor of his beloved, and finally meeting him in single combat on the battlefield and slaying him. Thus he recovered his stolen wife, who had remained true to him in spite of the advances and threats of her wicked abductor. To this day, Sita is, to all Indian women, the model of virtue and faithfulness. The victorious return of Ramchandra to the kingdom of his father was celebrated by lighting every light that could be produced, making the scene a most brilliant one. And so, down to the present time, all Hindus celebrate the anniversary of this great event by lighting all the lights that can be mustered for the occasion. The spiritual meaning of Diwali. The spiritual significance of this festival of lights is the victorious entrance of the soul into Daswan Dwar after its final victory over mind and matter. The lights point to the splendour and beauty of that realm, where even the light of one inhabitant is equal to the light of 12 of our suns. I would like to go into details concerning some of the marvellous spiritual lessons pointed out to the student in this great epic of ancient India, but I cannot do so now. I have called attention to this, perhaps the greatest classic ever produced by man, because it bears direct testimony in support of the teachings of our Master and other saints. The poem contains 22,000 slokas or couplets and is divided into 500 cantos. It is a pity that even now but few of the Indian people understand its true meaning, although they are so devoted to the story itself that every child in India is familiar with it. From the day that Ramchandra, with almost superhuman strength and willpower, won his wife Sita, Soul, in a public contest by bending and breaking the bow of Shiva, penetrating the darkness after controlling his own mind, up to his final victory, it is said that every word in every sentence is rich in spiritual meaning to him who has the key to its understanding. I believe you may be able to get a very good translation of the Ramayana by applying to the State University Department of Literature for information. Personnel of the Master's Inner Group. I desire now to give you a short sketch of the personnel of the Master's closest disciples and personal assistants. This will help you to follow the work of our great teacher. One cannot say that he has 12 disciples, for he has close to 60,000 disciples, and most of them are devoted worshippers. But like all great men, he has a few who stand closest to him. 1. Naturally, we must begin with his private secretary, Rai Sahib, whose real name is Rai Harnarayan. He is always with the Master, wherever he goes, and is thus by his side to render assistance whenever and wherever needed. He is a retired Director of Public Records in the Punjab Civil Government, and draws a liberal pension for long and meritorious services. Of course, he draws no salary for his present services, which are given purely from devotion to the Master and to the Master's work. He is familiar with all of the languages spoken in this part of the country, including English. He is educated, highly efficient, and insists that things be done properly. One of his chief duties is to see that the Master is not imposed upon by everyone seeking selfish advantages. He has been an initiate of the Master for 23 years and has been constantly with the Master for the past 10 years. Evidently, he is much loved by the Master, and his services are greatly appreciated, not only by the Master, but by all Satsangis. 2. Next is Sardar Jagat Singh, Professor of Chemistry in the Great Agricultural College at Lyallpur. He is a secretary who attends to all of the American correspondence. All of the letters you get from the Master are in his handwriting, but the substance of those letters is dictated to him by the Master. He comes here as often as possible from a distance of 150 miles. If answers to some of your letters seem to be delayed at times, it is likely because he could not get time to attend to them. He is a mild-mannered man, gentle, of but few words, refined and deeply spiritual. In fact, he is a very lovable character. His devotion to the Master is an inspiration to all Satsangis. 3. We may next introduce Sardar Bhagat Singh, a cousin of the Professor, although in this country they speak of cousins as brothers. He is an attorney at law in Jalandhar city, about 27 miles from here. In this country, an attorney registered to practice before the High Court is called an advocate. Sardar Bhagat Singh is one of the recognised, outstanding men of his profession in all of Punjab. He is a man of medium height, rather heavy-set, with slightly grey beard and a benevolent smile that betokens a kind heart and a radiant soul. He is a lovable man, and it is a delight to know him. He is highly educated, of a keen and discriminating intelligence, and he is a very successful lawyer. He is outstanding proof that a lawyer can make an honest living, for his honesty and integrity are beyond question. He attends to all of the legal work of the master, relating to the many business affairs of this centre. He may aptly be called the Prime Minister to the Master, a title which is commonly given him by Satsangis. 4. Sardar Gurjar Singh, a man of about 45 or 50 years, is one of the advanced members of the Master's cabinet. He is a builder and architect. He is just now retiring from long service in the government and will be here shortly to assume charge of the construction work on the new auditorium to be built in the Dera. The bricks are now being burned here in the Master's own brickyard. Sardar Gurjar Singh, or Baba Gurjar Singh as he is affectionately known here, is renowned for his spiritual devotion and also for his love for the Master. He is highly trained and is a deep thinker in all matters philosophical and religious, as well as in his own particular profession. He draws plans and superintends all important construction work for the Master, although the Master himself is a civil engineer and keeps his eye on everything that goes on. 5. Pritham Das fills an office not known in America. He is a chanter of sacred hymns and scriptures. At the satsangs, a portion of the writings of some other saint selected by the Master is chanted by this man, usually assisted by one or two others. The Master then uses the portion chanted as his text. He makes comments and explanations. This takes the place of set lectures in which the Master never indulges. This man used to be considered a master himself and had many hundred disciples. Although he is still less than 40 years old, he had and still has the power to perform miracles and also the gift of prophecy. But of course, he is now forbidden to use those powers. He was highly venerated, but he realized in his own soul that he had need for a perfect master who could lead him to greater heights. Learning of our Master, he came to see him, was convinced of our Master's superiority over himself and all others, and asked for initiation. He then brought all of his own disciples to our Master, informing them of the Master's great superiority over himself. 6. Perhaps here we should introduce a man who, though not so highly educated or prominent in the social ranks, yet occupies a position which, if rightly understood, might be envied even by the King Emperor. I am sure he would not exchange his present job for the crown of Great Britain. He has been the Master's personal attendant for the last 17 years. He loves the Master with a devotion which is beautiful to see, and which only a true disciple can understand. He is over 40 years of age and has never been married. He has always insisted that he cared for none other in this world except his Master. His name is Shadi, which means happiness. His sweet spirit is proverbial here. He is also a skilled mechanic and machinist. He is the silent watcher as well as worshipper of his master, ready at any moment of the day or night to render any service needed. That service, rewarded only by a smile or a kind word from the master, is his greatest joy. Like all the rest, he gets no salary. 7. There are 3 women, Bibi Lajo, Bibi Rukki and Bibi Ralli, who render great service to the master by preparing his food, doing his laundry, pressing his clothes, and doing his sewing, mending, etc. Bibi is a sort of affectionate term for lady. They also look after the management of numerous women engaged in the public kitchen and other departments of the Dera. These women are all spiritually minded, advanced souls and serve with a loving devotion that is rare on this earth. Of course, they get no financial pay. They get only their food from the public kitchen and their rooms. Yet they would not give up their present jobs for the salary of the Governor-General with all its honours and emoluments. They consider that they are serving the King of Kings. 8. There are many others who deserve mention. Among them are Rajaram of Rawalpindi, a manufacturing jeweller and banker, and Shiv Shankar of Amritsar, a rich merchant, who have both built magnificent and expensive halls in their own towns devoted to our Master's work. They are unassuming, humble, and beautiful in spirit, and much devoted to our Master. They are frequently seen in the Dera. Besides these, there are many other prominent men, judges, lawyers, doctors, college professors, bachelors and masters of arts without number, all paying deference to our Master, with a sweet humility and loyalty that only a great Master could inspire in such men. None but the greatest of souls could captivate and hold such a wonderful personnel as his worshipful followers. All of these men, wise in their own lines, esteem it the greatest privilege to sit at the Master's holy feet and absorb the greater wisdom. Each life is predetermined. One of the best beloved of your number has asked this disciple to try to give more of the Master's own words in these letters. Well and good. Last month, he accompanied the Master to Amritsar for a 2-day satsang in the new hall. Late one evening, after the crowd had been shut out, a few of us sat at the Master's feet in the upper room of the hall. One of us asked the Master this question: Is it true that a certain definite number of breaths, a fixed amount of food, a certain number of actions of different kinds are all allotted to each person and all predetermined before his birth? The Master replied, Yes, everyone is allotted just so many breaths, which he may draw during his lifetime, a certain fixed quantity of food, and all other things which he may receive and may do during his life. Thus his whole life is set and arranged on the basis of his past earnings, of his karma. If then he uses up his allotment prematurely by overindulgence, he cuts his life short by just that much. The Master explained at another time that one reason the yogis have been able to prolong their lives far beyond the usual periods was because their time was spent largely in a sort of trance condition, wherein breathing was almost stopped. Question: Then a man should eat just as little as possible and keep as quiet as possible if he wishes to live long? Answer: yes, he should eat only the minimum amount required to keep his body in good condition, and he should indulge in nothing that unnecessarily causes rapid breathing or any other waste of vital forces. He should do nothing needlessly that causes any expenditure of energy or life force, or in any other way squander his allotment. Question: but is long life always a good thing? Answer: no, a long life is useless unless devoted to Shabad and spent in the service of Satpurush under the direction of Satguru. It was further brought out by discussion that the Master's meaning was very clear, to the effect that the expenditure of one's allotment was to be limited to legitimate uses and not to be squandered by any sort of indulgence just for the sake of indulgence or just to gratify the senses. Only by observing this rule may one live the full measure of his allotted days. Each one starts in life with a definite amount of capital which he has earned in past lives. He is permitted to do as much as he pleases with that capital. He can blow it all in, as we say, in a short time, or he may use it properly and extend his life to the limit of years. Great crowds press upon the Master. At this satsang, a large number were initiated. The interest was unusually great. Throngs came to the holy Satguru from early morning until late at night, and they would have continued to come all night long if the Master had not gone inside and shut his doors. They sat in great numbers just outside of his rooms, waiting for his coming out, just hoping for another glimpse of him, and possibly another gracious Radha Soami from him. They pressed the doors and windows in mobs, and guards had to be stationed at the doors to limit the numbers admitted. Otherwise the Master would have been thronged beyond endurance. They almost try to climb over each other to get to him. Each foot of space is contested to see who will get closest to him. But he meets them all, whether one alone or 10,000 at a time, with a fatherly smile and a greeting of Radha Soami. His kindly words of wisdom and love inspire them all. This writer has frequently watched the crowds thus thronging the Master, many of them men and women of culture, offering some of the most phenomenal demonstrations of devotion. He has many times tried to analyze it into its psychological elements, often with tears in their eyes, hands folded in an attitude of worship, and on their faces the radiance of joy and love. There is nothing else like it to be found on earth. The writer has also watched the dull, perfunctory ceremonial worship of idols in some of the temples. The faces of the worshippers wore a fixed and serious expression, usually what you would expect to see at a funeral. Occasionally, some poor woman, looking the very picture of despair, would implore her God to have pity. Seldom anywhere was seen even the light of hope, much less of love. The writer is also familiar with the customary forms of worship as carried on in the Christian churches throughout the world. The usual awe and hush, the solemn mien and sonorous voice of the priest or minister, as he orates of things he knows nothing about. The dignified formality of the entire ceremony, the half-dubious expressions on the faces of the crowd in the pews, the set reading of the scripture and the songs of the choir, all are carried out as punctiliously as if it were to be their last act on earth, hoping thereby to escape the damnation of hell. In the old-time Baptist and Methodist revivals, the above-described ceremonies generally gave way to manifold demonstrations of emotion and hysteria. The writer has also watched the stern and set faces of men as they turned their attention toward Mecca at sunset and went through with their formal prayers to Allah and the Prophet of Islam. But nowhere has he ever witnessed such beautiful, spontaneous and joyous worship as that given to the Master, the beloved Sadguru. In their faces, thousands of them in one great throng, they show combined love and joy and hope and cheerful realization. Sometimes accentuated by tears of gladness, their eyes sparkle as if lit up by the light of the third heaven. Here is worship with perfect understanding mingled with love. They know exactly whom and what they are worshipping. It is no theological belief with them. Their living Lord is right there before their eyes, and he is not a theory. I am aware that all of this is probably beyond the ken of the average American, brought up as we have been upon an unholy mixture of dogmatic theology and materialism. But to these people, the Master is all there is of God and of heaven and of eternal life combined and embodied in this human form. The most astute and analytical philosophers among them see nothing inconsistent in the idea of God and man being fully expressed in one form right among them. To them, it is in fact the normal thing, and they cannot imagine the full expression of divine love on earth in any other manner. When they have seen him and learned to love him, they know that they can depend upon him for eternal life. They know in their souls that seeing him now today, they have that boundless life already. It is not a faraway hope, a vague intangible something to be wondered about. It is a present possession, and so why shouldn't they be filled with joy? It would be idle to call this blind devotion. That would be an unfortunate reflection upon the intelligence and fair-mindedness of the person making such a comment. If you could witness this devotion yourself, you would know that it is the intelligent worship of the soul. The worship of the Master is a living joy, unlike anything else on earth. In the Master's presence, it is all light. No shadow can remain, and it carries with it its own internal evidence of truth and reality. Borne up upon this reality, the heart takes wings like an eagle. And yet probably nothing but a personal experience would ever have convinced this disciple of that sublime reality. He does not expect everyone else to accept it all at once. The Master is all in all. Under the date of January 27th, 1933, the following entry appears in the diary of this writer. This morning the sun shines again in all of his golden glory. The Master has returned. I have seen him, have looked into his smiling eyes and heard his kindly voice in greeting. Life has returned, and the light of the world has dispelled the night of the soul. For 3 weeks the sun shone not by day, and the moon and the stars gave not their light by night. The birds forgot their song, and only the shriek of things in the distant jungle broke the oppressive silence. Men came and went like ships passing each other in the night. Only in Bhajan was there life and light, for the Master's radiant form is always there, if the scales but fall from our eyes that we may see. But this adorable earthly form was 150 miles away. If any of my friends should feel that there is some exaggeration in these words, let them come in person to the Master. Let them live with him for 8 months, watch his gracious ministry to thousands of eager disciples. Behold his tender forgiveness extended to his erring children. Receive his holy benediction upon their own feeble efforts. Learn to love him as their Father, Redeemer, Saviour. Realize all of this and tell me if there is exaggeration. They will probably say that without him the world ceases to exist and time itself stands still. This disciple daily grows more and more thankful that he has found the way to the Master's holy feet. But the feelings of a disciple will probably remain an enigma to the average American until he himself becomes a disciple and has the same experiences with the Master. Personal experiences. Some of your number have written urgent requests to know what progress this disciple has made internally. Obviously, that is something which cannot be discussed without special permission of the Master. But this much may be said. This disciple's experiences with the Master, on the inner path and otherwise, have been extremely satisfactory. They have been of such a nature as to convert all faith into positive knowledge as to the Master's genuineness and leadership, and the truth of his message. The immediate future is very bright with promise of greater things. There is every assurance of success. Do not let your faith in the Master waver for an instant, no matter what the difficulties in the way. Final success is sure to attend your efforts. Cordially and fraternally yours, Julian P. Johnson.